3/4 of our planet is covered in water. The great oceans are sparsely populated, equivalent to huge deserts. Creatures of the deep must travel far in search of food. But here and there, submerged mountain peaks break through the waves. Remote islands in a desert sea. Ocean Oases. A helicopter in the heart of the Indian Ocean, 1,000 miles from anywhere. Only in the last 25 years or so has such aerial access become common so far from the African mainland. The islands of the Seychelles group were once among the remotest in the world, geological wonders of granite and coral. Now they're stepping stones in a spectacular undersea realm, a submerged plateau with coral reefs vibrant with life. This intriguing and once forgotten corner of the globe also hides the largest of all coral atolls, Aldabra, a natural marvel and a challenge to divers. Drawn to these rich hunting grounds come the largest fish in the sea. They cruise in from an empty blue desert, as they have for millions of years, but now they meet newcomers on this ancient plateau, human explorers at this ocean oasis. There are numerous islands scattered between India, Madagascar and Africa, but only among the 92 or so of the Seychelles group are there islands made of granite. These are the peaks of submarine mountains, the remnants of an ancient continent that long ago drowned in a rising sea. Tropical rainfall keeps these slopes luxuriant with forest, and each island has a few animals that live nowhere else on Earth. Far from the main trade routes, this sleepy paradise was only occasionally awakened by explorers or pirates, until France and Britain in turn chose to set foot on these shores. Today, the independent Republic of Seychelles is more accessible, not only the islands, but the extensive submarine plateau surrounding them, a new world for undersea explorers. In rainbow colors and vast multitudes, fish of almost every form crowd the granite gullies and coral avenues. The shoals offer safety in numbers, but predators such as golden morays never go short of food here. Marbled rays find shelter in caves around the islands. The profusion of life is breathtaking. The granite corridors of this Seychelles plateau unique. The health of this tropical sea is proclaimed by the rich growth of corals. The tentacled polyps of soft corals reach into the current to grasp at plankton. Giant sea fans sieve the current for the microscopic animals and plants adrift in the water. This is a confusing world, where animals look like plants, and these whip corals are animals, just like these hard corals whose polyps build massive limestone structures. Butterfly fish and Moorish idols shelter carefully in a maze of stinging fire coral. These fish seek unlikely refuge among the tentacles of anemones, relatives of the corals, but each fish is protected from the stinging tentacles by a coat of special mucus. The lionfish has its own protection as well, a row of venomous spines on its back. Its well-disguised relative, the scorpionfish, also has spines that can cause a painful wound. A boxfish advertises its presence with bright colors, a warning that it's not good to eat. An octopus uses disguise to confuse predators, or to hide itself from the prey it's ambushing. This one is pretending to be a lump of living coral. Not a bad match, really. Even the rippling sunlight is mimicked, and it's all done with special pigment cells in the skin. But if danger persists, then retreat is prudent. This hawksbill turtle is looking for a meal. A living sponge is on the menu today, and the turtle seems to relish it. The scattered fragments are shared with passing fish. A sponge is an animal, and this one has broken away from the reef. It's not easy to handle, but the turtle skillfully uses its flippers. The hawk-like beak is perfect for this job. A sea cucumber uses its sticky tentacles to pick up fragments that are then scraped into its mouth. It's really walking over its food. A long-snouted butterfly fish can reach further into the crevices of coral than its less endowed competitors or their mimic, the filefish that also grazes on polyps. A goatfish feels for sand shrimps, using the stiff barbels on its chin. But there are more subtle relationships here than that of predator and prey. There's a service industry of cleaners available to those prepared to suppress their desire to eat everything in sight. Picking fragments from the teeth of a moray is specialized work. This dental hygienist doesn't expect to be consumed by the patient. There are shrimps here that make their pincers available as pickers of parasites. What bliss this seems to be for the client. Parked by a cleaning station, gills agape, in almost trance-like state, inviting the cleaners to eat their fill of unwanted hitchhikers. A coral atoll of the Emirantes, the islands of the Admiral, reputedly discovered by the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama. 400 years later, in 1994, these islands, 200 miles west of the granitic Seychelles, were surveyed by helicopter for the first time. That survey detected some intriguing underwater features. What appear to be holes in the reef are coral caves whose roofs have collapsed. Like guardians of these caverns, fish crowd every space. These are snappers feeding in the strong current. This cavern is also a safe shelter for a large shoal of oriental sweetlips. They can feed on this nourishing blizzard entering the cavern from deeper water. Here, beneath the island of Des Roches, 20 meters down, is the unsuspected entrance to a passageway leading into the coral. A huge marbled ray rises majestically as though to investigate the newcomers. A nurse shark is disturbed by the unusual activity. The ray is heading boldly into the tunnel, almost beckoning to be followed. Over 200 meters in, the divers must rely on torches. But they are unable to see the walls of this vast cavern until the passage narrows. There's danger of getting lost in this ancient limestone labyrinth under the island. Stalagmites and stalactites indicate that long ago this limestone was above sea level, an air-filled cave. A safety line was paid out as the divers entered. Without it, there'd be no chance of finding the way out. The slightest movement kicks up the fine coral sand into a disorientating fog. "300 meters in, and at such depth, the divers must begin their return. Unlike the marble ray, for them, time is limited. The cave also turns out to be a bedroom for white-tipped sharks, but they're no threat. Des Roches Island is honeycombed with caves like this, offering many further explorations for divers. This dive was long and deep. The ascent must be slow. Time to contemplate another coral island in this ocean that is quite unlike all the others. No aircraft can land there. Only by boat can the dive team approach and explore the distant shores of Aldabra. "36 kilometers long, and in places some 7 meters above sea level, Aldabra is the largest raised coral atoll in the world. Scarcely visible, the scientific settlement by the west channel into the lagoon is the only trace of human presence. This is one of the few islands in any ocean almost undisturbed by people. The sea ebbs and flows through 4 channels in the ring, flushing the lagoon with clean water, clear and sunlit over the living coral. The most dramatic currents pour through the main channel of the atoll. Where this lagoon is today, some 50,000 years ago, there stood a volcano, around whose shores grew a reef. As the volcano sank into the sea, the coral grew higher and was left as this ring around the vanished mountain. Now, a wealth of marine life rides the tides that flood the heart of Aldabra. There's a special thrill in hitching a lift on this conveyor belt of water surging through the main channel. There's danger also. These outcrops of ancient coral are razor sharp. The lagoon is a kaleidoscope of fish, changing at each shake of the tides. Turtles ride in to feed. Many breed on the outer beaches. So few people come to Aldabra, the fish are quite unafraid, though here they're too busy feeding in this turbulent current to take any notice. Either side of the main channel, the water is shallow, and in the sunlight, the hard corals flourish. At low tide, the reef will dry out, so these humpback snappers have only brief access to these feeding grounds. A barracuda gets curious. The long drift on the current comes to an end in the middle of the lagoon amongst Aldabra's living corals that are set firm on the foundations of that prehistoric reef that once fringed a volcano. These waters have never known pollution. All access today is only by special permit. But great care must be taken close to this fossil coral, a jagged frontier to defend the island. Aldabra's lagoon is almost virgin territory for marine biologists and divers. In this lagoon, unusual mixes of fish are seen, such as these surgeonfish feeding alongside parrotfish. It could be that with limited time before the lagoon drains, the natural rules change. Every fish makes the most of the time available. A school of mullet has come in on the tide. They feed on the bottom. Each kind of fish eats different foods. That's one way many species can live together on a reef. Many also have their own territories. Rays have little time to hide in the sand. They must hunt and leave. This group is already on the move to the way out. Young fish hide in the nursery of mangroves around the lagoon edge. The trees stand on these stilts. They're the roots of the mangroves, but also a place of safety for juvenile fish. When grown up, this young emperor angelfish will change that color pattern entirely. In this crystal clear water, fish are easily visible from above, so the tangle of roots is not only a protective cage from predatory fish, but from eyes in the sky. Aldabra is famous for its birds. There are 12 land birds found nowhere else, and frigate birds and boobies colonize these mangroves. A red-footed booby incubates a single large egg. They're very tame when on the nest. Parents take turns at this job. This egg has only been left for a moment or two. It's the giant tortoise that makes Aldabra a kind of Galapagos of the East, and even Charles Darwin himself expressed concern for this island in 1874, when there was danger of tortoises being eaten to extinction by sailors on visiting ships. These reptiles, he said, are the only surviving link reminding us of those still more gigantic forms that once inhabited the continent of India in past geological age. It's their tameness that could have been their downfall, but today 150,000 thrive on Aldabra. They're mainly vegetarians, but such large numbers have overgrazed parts of the island. Here they feed in fierce sunlight, and many die of heat exhaustion. Those that live to 150 years of age or more have learned how to cool off. They can swim, but there's nowhere to go. The other islands are no longer suitable. Perhaps more than any other animal on Aldabra, the tortoises show how vital this island is as a living laboratory of evolution. Claw to claw, a robber crab is about a man's arm wide. These crabs are impressive scavengers. They'll eat anything, even climbing up to cut down coconuts. They're sometimes called coconut crabs, and it's not a good idea to be underneath. A large crab and remarkably agile, it's been said they're not easy company to share an island with. This is Aldabra's most famous bird, the flightless rail. It now lives nowhere else. A white-throated rail is often heard tapping old turtle bones before it's seen. The few here are the last flightless birds of the Indian Ocean, not yet gone the way of the dodo. The herons and egrets that roam Aldabra's fossilized shores may come and go between other islands, unlike the sacred ibis and those smaller birds that arrived from Madagascar or the Comores and stayed to become birds of Aldabra's trees and bush alone. The flood of another tide and rain to fill the freshwater pools keep Aldabra alive, as it has been for 50,000 years. It's not just the largest of atolls, but the one that shows how it all once was before people found this Indian Ocean and its islands on the sunken Seychelles plateau. The shallow seas of this remote plateau have for millions of years attracted big fish out of the deeper ocean. They come to exploit the riches of this coral sea. Now, divers can enter this ancient world, seeking to share its natural wonder. These shoals are the harvest of the ocean, and the reapers are the hunters of the sea, the barracuda, sailfish, sharks. Paradoxically, it's the smallest life in the ocean that's preferred by the largest of fish, the whale shark, the biggest fish in the world. Gulping down water which it expels through the gill slits, this 12-meter giant strains plankton from the sea. No other creature or diver need fear this massive animal. Remoras stick close to the shark. They're ready to dart out from this hiding place to grab a smaller fish. What more impressive sight can there be to rival a company of whale sharks cruising for a meal? So-called pilot fish crowd in and around the huge mouth. They're nothing to do with guiding the shark, only cleaning its mouth of parasites. Before long, this family will slip away into the blue distance, leaving this oasis of the Seychelles Plateau and its islands, stepping stones in a tropical sea.